Well, good morning, or afternoon, or whenever you're watching this thing. Uh, U.S. history, got some things to do. We've looked at the 20s, looked at the 30s. Now we're going to start World War II. Well, actually, we're not going to be the ones to start World War II. It's going to be kind of those Japanese guys attacking us. Even though we did have some, kind of push on them that we had them doing an embargo on their fuel and stuff like that, which is kind of taking them off. But they knew that they wanted to go on and do some other stuff, as in they wanted to take more land because they're an island. But December 7th, Yamamoto comes up with a plan of attacking Pearl Harbor and kills about 3,000 people in Hawaii. Lots and lots of sailors and soldiers and all that kind of stuff. Horrible, horrible day in American history. And, we'll always remember it. You've seen videos and things of it, I'm sure. Can't go through being American without seeing stuff about Pearl Harbor and how devastating it was. But, interesting thing. Yamamoto blew it in 4 ways. 4 different ways. The Yamamoto blew it when it came to making sure that he attacked us and tried to knock us and make sure we weren't going to come into the war. And that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to totally cripple us. But he blew it in 4 big, huge ways. First one, December 7th was a Sunday. Yamamoto attacked us on that Sunday because he thought, what the heck, they're not going to be ready on a Sunday. That's their religious day. They're going to be doing these things. I mean, he knew about American society and such, but that actually helped us. If you're a young guy and you're single and you're in Hawaii, are you going to want to be on the ship during peacetime on a weekend? Heck no, man. You're heading into town. You're going to go out and party and you're going to have a great time. And you're not going to go back to the ship to sleep on Saturday night. You're going to wake up wherever you are on Sunday and then make it to the ship when you have to. And that's exactly what hundreds and hundreds of sailors did. And military guys were not there when the Japanese attacked. Because of that, tons of lives were saved. So that was his first mistake, is he attacked on a Sunday and thus saved a lot of American lives. Let's see. Second one. There were no aircraft carriers there. The aircraft carriers were out at sea. And they sunk a whole bunch of our destroyers. All kinds of destroyers. But destroyers were starting to be old technology by then. People didn't realize that. They were still putting money into it. But the future of naval combat is going to be aircraft carriers. Our aircraft carriers being away is going to save the war for us. We can immediately retaliate, and I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So number 2 is he didn't sink any aircraft carriers. Next one. Next thing that he blew was the fact that, my wife and I got married, and my wife bought the most expensive thing she's ever bought at the dollar store and gave it to me. And it was this really, really important ring thing. And within a year, we were out swimming out at Luther Haven on Coeur d'Alene Lake. And it kept slipping off my fingers. And, well, it fell down into the lake off the dock. And my ring floated all the way down to the bottom. I immediately dive in to go see if I can find the thing. And if you've ever dove any distance in Coeur d'Alene Lake without goggles and stuff, what do you see? Black. And so I saw nothing and stuff. So I came up, does anybody have goggles? And Nobody did, but I knew where it was. It's off the dock over there in Coeur d'Alene. So the next weekend, we came back with a scuba tank, and my father-in-law was diving, and I was just free diving down about 20 feet down to the bottom and looking. And after searching for an intense, huge amount of time, yep, found the ring. You know, if I would have been on a boat out in the middle of Coeur d'Alene Lake and I would have dropped the ring into the water there, my wife would have been pissed at me for the rest, well, for a long time. We never would have gotten it. It would have been gone if it would have sunk in deep water. Pearl Harbor is a shallow harbor. That's one of the reasons we loved it, is the fact that it was just deep enough to make sure that our ships could get in, but shallow enough that we didn't think we had to worry about torpedoes coming in from planes and such and sinking our ships. Well, the Japanese figured a way around that, both with torpedoes and with bombers, and they sunk a number of our ships, but they just went down to the bottom. If you go to Pearl Harbor today, you'll see the memorial to the Arizona. Well, it literally sits on top of the wreckage of the Arizona. And you can see parts of the ship during the day, you know, depending upon where the tide is. A couple of the ships that were sunk at Pearl Harbor were patched up, drained out of water, fixed, and back in the fight. And some not too long, which is another thing we'll talk about here in a minute. So that situation there, that was huge by having it with, that's number 3 of a shallow harbor. They sunk them in Pearl Harbor. Next, you know, whenever you get in trouble, your parents have the first thing that they'll do now, unless you're Cameron, who, you know, mom depends upon him continually always having this. But the first thing they'll try if they're going to punish you is to take away your phone, right? Well, what they're doing is trying to isolate you. They're trying to keep you away from everybody else. And so, you know, you don't have your phone anymore. And so you're isolated. And if you're still not behaving yourself, they got to go back to the time that my dad did when, you know, that one time, only one time when I did something wrong. Take away your keys. If you take away your keys, you're not traveling anywhere. You're not going to cause any problems. You're stuck at home. There's no way you're going to go out there. You can't go. Well, the Japanese couldn't have attacked our keys to our ships. There's no way they could do that. But they could have done something else that would have crippled us and set us back for a massive amount of time. And it was right there in Pearl Harbor. You remember, they bombed our battleships and our cruisers, but they didn't go after our fuel. They didn't go after the tankers that were loaded with fuel for all of those ships. They were right there. If they would have hit them, it would have been an amazing explosion, which would have been really cool to see. But that would have set us back tons. We would have had to rebuild those things and bring them all the way back from the States filled with fuel before we were going to be back in the fight. Even our aircraft carriers would have been stuck because there would have been no way to keep them moving. So they blew it by not doing that. So those are the 4 main reasons they really blew it. But I'm going to add one more just because what the heck, I can do that. Yamamoto, after they were done, said one specific thing after the attack of Pearl Harbor. And it was, I'm afraid all we've done is awakened a giant. The Japanese really underestimated our fighting spirit. The fact that we were going to come back in spades and make sure we won that war. So, those are the big things where the Japanese blew it when they attacked us in Pearl Harbor. You'll probably want to make sure you get those on the Google Doc that you'll find here on the assignment a little lower. But after this, the United States knew now that we were probably in deep water as far as what we were going to be able to do to attack the Japanese. And at the same time, now had declared war on Germany as well because it was an ally of the Japanese. And so FDR decided Europe first. We're going to fight the war in Europe first, and then we're going to start attacking the Pacific. Now, in world history last year, you guys learned about the European War and all the stuff that was going there. So we're going to focus on the Pacific specifically in this class. And, but you know, really? So we get kicked by these guys and beaten up by this guy over here, and we instead decide that we're going to fight these people over here. The Americans aren't going to put up with that for very long. And so they came up with an idea to at least bloody the nose of the Japanese. And that was called the Doolittle Raid. The Doolittle Raid was this really, really interesting thing where they put aircraft carriers on, not aircraft carriers, put bombers on aircraft carriers and then took them out and got as close as they could and then bombed Tokyo. Just to scare Tokyo to say, okay, we're coming after you. This is going to happen. We're not going to let this thing wait. And so this attack really ends up kind of surprising them and puts them in a big, huge fear as far as, oh my gosh. And they know, the Japanese know, that bombers can't take off aircraft carriers. So they look in the Pacific, where is the one place where bombers could have sent off from? Where could they have taken off from? And the place they find is a place called Midway. And so they set their design on taking the island of Midway. And so they're going to head out there and take this. Well, the United States was working on breaking the code of the Japanese. We were getting very, very close. And there was just some words that we had, other words we didn't. And so what we did is we actually sent out some messages trying to break the code of what different locations were and such. And they the United States sent a fake message out saying they had some problems in Midway that they knew that the Japanese could interpret and then send back in their code. And they did it. And we captured the message and broke the code. So for the first time in the war, the United States knew for a fact that they were going to be sending aircraft carriers to attack and then take the island of Midway. And it's there that we send all of our forces to attack the Japanese in a surprise attack at Midway. We end up winning that battle. And this is also probably important for the note thing. That's the turning point of the war. All right. So I'm going to stop there because it kind of gets you. From here, we're going to go into island hopping and, then get over to, bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki and stuff like that. But that's for another day. But right now, that's where we're going to kind of halt. And so Mr. Brown and I are thinking about how we are going to cover this thing and what we are going to do. And so we came up with two different ideas. And so you got one of two options. You only have to do one of the two. Okay. First option is fairly easy. You're going to go in, you're going to watch this video, which you're doing now, so that's already done. And then you're going to answer some questions on a Google Doc. Make sure you get that turned in. And then you can watch the movie Midway, the brand new movie that's out there, and you can take a look at what's going on, and it'll talk about and show all the stuff that I've talked about thus far. And I want you to write down some responses in that Google Doc you already had. Okay? So that's option number one. If you don't want to watch a war movie and you don't want to do anything like that, you got option number two. And option number two is you watch this video, which we've done that already. And then as soon as you're done with that, you open the Google document, answer a couple questions that are the same as what the other guys have. And then after you're done with that, you're going to have like 3 activelearning.com things you need to do, which I think you guys are finding is fairly painless as far as doing this stuff is concerned. Make sure you answer the questions. The grade goes directly from there right to Google Classroom, and then from that into the grade book. So, for those people that are trying to get their grades up, you might want to do that. So, all right. So that's what you got to do. You want to choose one of those 2 paths, and don't have to tell me. You just turn the stuff in, and I'll be a happy camper, and I'll know. And that's about it. So, pitter patter. Let's get at her. See you again. Miss you guys. Take care.